Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Greg, and this is Small Talk, where we discuss how faith fits in the big picture. Now, is food fogging your brain? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today, and discovering your food allergies. You're in the right place. So today, I am joined by Phyllis Smith. Phyllis, thank you so much for having us.
Anytime,
It's
Greg,
always a blessing to be invited by you, because I know there's food involved.
I knew there was a reason.
Yeah, that's right. Can we come over? Can we come over? Can we come over? Now, Phyllis, some would call you a food evangelist. That's what I would call you. Food evangelist. You teach people how to have a healthier lifestyle through their food, life transformation through the kitchen, how to properly prepare food. I mean, tell us a little bit about that. What is your passion in food, and how are you using it?
Yeah. We started off, our diet was terrible, but I still loved to cook. And as we transitioned to a vegetarian, then a vegan, and now a whole food plant-based diet, the cooking and the enjoying it has gone right along with it. In fact, I think I enjoy creating food today more than ever.
Interesting.
But in the midst of even this healthy lifestyle, our son developed, probably years ago, but we've only recently discovered it, some food sensitivities. There are food allergies, like you were talking about, and food sensitivities.
Now, what's the difference between a food allergy and a food sensitivity?
Well, from what I understand, we have a friend who's an allergist, and he explained it that true food allergies cause a histamine reaction. So you might have rashes, itching, heart palpitations, those kinds of things. It could result in, like, you've heard of people with peanut allergies having to carry an EpiPen around so they don't stop breathing. Yeah. So that's like a true allergy.
Okay.
But the confusing thing is you can have food sensitivities and have some of those same symptoms, but you can have other ones as well. It is.
Is this a food allergy or is it a food sensitivity?
Believe me, we've gone through this. We've been doing this now for about a year.
Wow.
And what we found is Matthew has so many symptoms that are physiological, like gastrointestinal issues. But the main thing is he gets brain fog. And he has thought for years and years and years that's just the normal way you're supposed to feel. Always tired, always lethargic, not super motivated. So we were thinking, well, this kid just needs a little motivation. He needs a
kick in the old rear.
Exactly. As it turns out, he needs less of those foods we're giving him. So
a lot of his symptoms, a lot of this lethargic, slow to move, slow thinking, that was all attributed to his diet, what he was eating. Interesting.
And we can tell because he said now that so much of it has cleared up for him, he said, I did not know I could feel this way.
Wow. Yeah. Now, I just want to recap this because this is really big. Some people think that this whole food allergy, food sensitivity thing is new and that it's just a fad, but it's something that's real between all the GMO and processed foods and things that are happening in America, sugar and everything. These things are really happening. Now, you mentioned earlier that you are vegetarian, vegan, now you're totally plant-based. Even still, with this healthy diet you're feeding your kids, he develops this food sensitivity, food allergy.
Exactly.
Okay, so I don't feel crazy now because I'm excited about this topic because I too, in the last couple of years, have kind of discovered a food allergy. For me, it was anxiety, it was heart palpitations, and it was like this total brain fog. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? Am I diabetic? Am I hypoglycemic? Or, do I have a heart condition? Like, am I just freaking out over everything over no reason? Do I have PTSD? I don't know. So I started clearing my diet. I did a vegetable-only diet for a few days, totally flushed everything, reset my diet, and I started introducing foods back in slowly. For me, it was gluten and wheat. It was breads, and those are just totally throwing me off.
Yes.
What was it for Matt, or how did you figure out Matt's allergies? What was your process in that?
Well, we had an idea that gluten was involved.
Okay.
But I was kind of hoping that it wasn't because it's in everything and it's such a big deal. Right. From what we know now, I kind of wish it was just gluten.
Oh man, so
because it's not.
Oh wow.
So he explains the way he feels when he has a food that does not sit well with him. It's not just like, oh, I just don't feel very good. Right. He says he's wrecked. He feels terrible from head to toe. he just doesn't feel well, doesn't have his motivation, can't think straight, just a lot of problems.
Right.
So we had an idea that it was gluten, so that was the first thing we cut out.
Right.
And then we realized it was more than that.
Yeah.
So
I'm still on my journey too.
So we started cutting out big categories of things and just saying, okay, we know you can have lettuce. We know you can have, quinoa.
Take it back to basics.
Millet.
Yeah, it's introducing
Totally back
slowly.
to basics. Yeah. And so, like I was, explaining to you earlier, instead of getting, like this is, just paprika.
Right.
We used to use chicken seasoning and nutritional yeast.
So those things that have multiple seasonings in them.
Exactly, seasoned salt.
Right.
And they're on the market everywhere. Even if you look at your salt, you'll find there's dextrose in regular salt.
What is dextrose?
Sugar. It's just another word for sugar. It is. Seriously. So we get sea salt, which doesn't have it, because we found that as we try different, even natural sweeteners, they still make Matthew feel terrible.
Right.
And he can't think straight.
Still wrecked.
So we are down to, for sweeteners, and it's totally fine.
Okay.
This works great. It is called Sweet Drops, but you don't have to get this particular brand. But it's just stevia drops. So it's a natural plant.
Okay.
And it's just made into a liquid.
Okay.
We only use drops at a time.
Now, what about using something like organic honey or maple syrup? Does that work for your son Matthew? Or
It doesn't. It doesn't. So I had ended up buying, because I was using quite a bit of maple syrup for all of our sweeteners.
Yeah.
And now I have quite a bit of maple syrup that we're not using.
I just happen to need some.
There you go. So even honey and maple syrup do not sit well with them.
Wow.
So we have eliminated, seriously, categories of food.
Goodness.
The really hard thing is he can't do rice and he can't do beans.
Okay, now.
So do you ever feel like you're making bricks without straw? That's what we're doing.
I'm sure that's where you are right now.
That's what we're doing.
No, I'm still troubleshooting the things that are throwing me off. I'll eat something and I'm like, oh, I feel really lightheaded, really foggy. I can't think straight. And the two things I know for sure for me are wheats, anything gluten-based, and even corn, believe it or not. Corn does that not surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me at all. Matthew can't have corn either. Corn's probably one of the more common food sensitivities.
It's in everything.
GMO.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think that all the pesticides and all the preservatives and all the additives or how about the natural flavors that are in so many things, from salsa to tortillas.
Made with natural flavors.
Natural flavors. What does that mean?
Horse hoof. Oh, they don't tell you. Yeah, they don't tell you. Yeah.
Well, and so we had someone from our program, our Dinner with Doctor program, call and find out what the natural flavoring is in spaghetti sauce. Now, this is a vegetarian spaghetti sauce, and they said, we can't tell you what the item is because that's a proprietary ingredient, but what we can tell you is it's not vegetarian.
But it's in the vegetarian sauce.
Exactly. So we don't do natural flavors. We just don't go there. And what I really find is there are so many things that have these hidden mystery names. We don't know what they are anyway.
Right.
So we stick to basic seasonings, onion powder and garlic powder, cumin, paprika.
You just keep it very simple and make sure they don't have dextrose in them.
Singular items. So not something that has 4, 5, 6 different ingredients. Because chances are when they do, they have dextrose and they have natural flavors in addition.
Now, it sounds like you know the things that are really bothering your son Matthew. You know the foods. You've been troubleshooting his diet for how long now?
Almost a year.
Okay, so I'm a little less than a year on my journey trying to figure out what's wrong with me and what's happening. Some symptoms that I've had that have caused me to start this journey of like, okay, I've got to get my diet under control because this is really messing me up mentally and physiologically. Some symptoms that I had were just chronic fatigue. I was just a little snapping turtle, just angry all the time.
Irritable.
Irritable. There we go. Heart palpitations, anxiety attacks. Now, anxiety attacks were new for me. I'm used to working in high stress environments. Before changing occupations, I was an air traffic controller. So I'm used to stress, right? I was served in the military. I mean, stress, whatever.
And now toast is stressing.
And now toast. I'm like, oh gosh, toast. My life is over. So stressed out.
I can land a plane, but no toast.
Exactly. So if maybe you're watching and anxiety is new for you and you're trying to get on pills to balance out your anxiousness, you'd be surprised it's possibly your diet. right? I
Right,
mean, what were
right.
some of the symptoms that Matthew was having?
Well, definitely the chronic fatigue thing.
Okay.
He would try to sleep for 10 to 12 hours. I mean, we felt like he was sleeping all the time. And then he would feel like he needed a nap during the day. So I have to admit, as a mom, I'm thinking, this boy is possibly a little on the lazy side.
Right,
and I
right.
feel so bad today because
Wow.
he has an abundance of energy now. And he sleeps less,
Yeah.
and he actually feels good.
Wow.
And we're tracing it back to his foods.
Yeah, yeah. So chronic fatigue. Did he have the anxiety or the anxiousness, the heart palpitations?
He didn't have those, and
Okay.
and the symptoms are so varied.
For him, was it more gastrointestinal?
Definitely the whole stomach issue, and also the brain fog, and just the feeling of lethargy, just no energy. So for a while we were like, okay, you need B12, you need
Right,
more
right.
of this, you need more of this.
Yeah.
And I don't think those things were bad, but it was not solving his problem.
Right.
So we backed away from everything, just used salt and onion powder and some herbs.
Now,
And then,
yeah, some people may be looking at these ingredients and they're hearing about Matthew's diet and they're thinking, well, if he's allergic to rice and gluten and corn and sugar, well, what are you making this kid? I want to talk about that in just a second. But before we go into some foods that you're maybe feeding Matthew and how to replace these foods that you find out you're allergic to, I want to first ask you, what is some practical steps to troubleshooting if you're experiencing these symptoms, if you're having intestinal problems, if you're having anxiety or brain fog from food? What's some practical steps?
okay, the first thing you need to do is seriously simplify everything. If you look at what you eat, an average person eats in a day, and you looked at all the ingredients in each one, by the time you're done with the end of the day, you
You've
might
got
have
just a rap
50,
sheet.
60 exactly
Yeah,
of
yeah.
ingredients. So if you back away from all that, if you even just went to salt for seasoning to start with, and start with simple basic foods.
Okay.
Brown rice, if you can handle it. We tried brown rice, and
Didn't work for
it makes Matthew feel
Okay.
terrible.
Okay.
So millet and quinoa, I really haven't heard of people having too many issues with those.
Okay.
So we started off with those two. We found out he can do gluten-free oats and buckwheat as well. So those are the 4 grains we
Okay.
use.
Okay.
And believe me, we make everything with those. Crepes, pancakes,
Nice. Pancakes,
pancakes.
crepes.
Seriously,
So even with my
waffles.
gluten intolerance and my inability to eat wheat, it's not the end of the world.
It isn't
I can
the end
still
of the
join
world.
the national crepe contest.
Exactly,
Just-
exactly. And that's important to know.
It's very important to
You
know.
sort of have no hope in the very beginning.
Yeah,
and
right? Yeah,
He
yeah.
was very discouraged,
Yeah.
thinking, I'm not going to be able to eat anything anymore. He did lose 15 pounds
Wow.
right when he first started.
Yeah.
And he didn't really need to lose any weight, but he has so much more energy now. He feels
Right.
so much better.
Yeah.
It was worth everything that we went through to
Right.
get to this stage, because now we know what we can use. And we're slowly replacing foods. I can't have this, but I can have this.
Yeah.
I have made falafel out of quinoa
We're
instead
gonna
of
have to-
garbanzo
We're
beans.
gonna have to hang
So-
out after this. And just, so it sounds like you're saying the first step is start with the basics, seasoning. You went to just basic salt.
Exactly.
Because you can't have a reaction
sensitivity.
or sensitivity to seasonings.
And you don't know which one it is if you put 6 seasonings in
Right,
your
right.
stew or your spaghetti sauce,
Right.
which we all do.
Yeah.
So,
So salt, and
basic,
then
and then lots of the foods that we knew he could eat.
Mm-hmm.
Onions, garlic. We found out tomatoes work really well with him, so I use lots of fresh
Mm-hmm. Okay.
tomatoes.
Okay.
I use lots of fresh foods
Yeah.
instead of so much of even the canned foods.
Right, right.
So I'm going to show you in a little bit a
Yeah.
tomato sauce that I made, and it's all fresh vegetables.
Okay. So seasonings. Now you started him with just brown rice,
Right.
but that didn't work for him.
It didn't.
So now you switched to quinoa and millet.
Right.
So,
And I keep quinoa and millet cooked in the fridge at all times.
nice.
As a staple.
Okay.
So,
okay.
So you do something simple like this, and say you
And then you
know
just-
broccoli. You've tried that. Broccoli works. So quinoa and broccoli. Just try that. And then on your food journal, not only do you write down what you ate and when,
Right.
then you write, how did that make me feel? Between that meal and the next meal, how did you feel?
Okay, so start with basic seasonings, and then start introducing foods one by one.
Slowly.
And now you're saying add a food journal. So you're actually tracking these things.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like troubleshooting your diet, figuring out this food fog and this allergic reactions or these sensitivities. You have to be intentional about it. This isn't guesswork.
Definitely have to be
You're
intentional.
methodical.
And it does take some doing to get to this place,
Right.
but it is so worth it.
Yeah.
If we were just, continuing to find out, oh yeah, that doesn't do well, that doesn't do well, we can't progress from that unless we can go back and look at it. And we have. And I mean, he's kept an extensive journal, months.
Wow. So an example of that would be I ate baked potato with sour cream and salt with broccoli and tofu.
Exactly.
I feel great.
Exactly.
Next day, maybe added chicken seasoning to my potato. Threw up. I feel horrible.
Terrible.
A
Feel
food
terrible.
fog.
Exactly.
So now you know it's okay. It's the
So
chicken
now you know
seasoning.
it's not the potato.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's the kind of thing that we have been doing.
Right.
And so we have been eliminating those things that even cause some sensitivity. He
Right.
wants to feel well.
Exactly.
So we have enough
Yeah.
foods that we can do.
Now, some may think this whole gluten thing is just a fad, as I said earlier.
I
but
did.
Yeah, right. But it's very real.
Very.
And for me, it's wheat and corn, and I'm still trying to troubleshoot this one, but I'm thinking it's also processed sugars.
Yes.
Now I know
Yes.
that's like what? No more Pop-Tarts?
I
What do you do with your
know,
life?
I know.
But it's not the end of the world. You're saying these sweet drops are a really good substitute for any kind of sweetener.
It's an excellent sweetener, and it's an excellent substitute, and it's just stevia. It's just a plant.
Right.
So this does not raise your glycemic level at all. It doesn't, no blood sugar spikes or anything. This is a natural sweetener that
Okay.
you can and you only have to use drops worth. So this bottle costs about $12, which seems like, wow, that's really expensive.
But it lasts
But
forever,
it will
right?
last us
Yeah.
a month and a half.
Wow.
I mean, you only use drops.
Okay.
So
So you're figuring out what Matthew cannot eat, and some of the things I'm hearing, I don't know how I'd live without them. So you're
I
saying
know.
no white rice, no brown rice, no maple syrup, no honey. There's
beans.
No beans.
Yes.
Oh man! And you guys are already vegan, vegetarian.
no.
So what are you feeding this kid?
Well, let me show you. I don't want people to think that the rest of your life you have to eat celery, because that sits well with you. So these are oat burgers.
Oat burgers.
Now,
Wow.
so I use gluten-free oats,
Okay.
of course, and then I used to use walnuts or pecans, but he's got a sensitivity to those, so
Okay.
I use sliced or slivered almonds now.
Okay.
And I use this. This is called, it's a gluten-free tamari. So it's like a soy sauce, or
Okay.
like, you've heard of the liquid aminos.
Right.
Those are fine too, but
Right.
they're a lot more expensive,
Now, why do you use this instead of soy sauce?
because believe it or not, soy sauce has wheat. I know.
Sushi days are over.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
This adds that nice salty soy sauce flavor. So in a blender, I put a quartered onion and some garlic, a little sage, a little of this, half a cup of this with the water, blend it all together. How long did it take me?
I saw you make this, and you poured it over just the rolled oats.
The rolled oats in a
Took
bowl.
maybe 5 minutes.
Takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You put the patties on a sheet and they bake for 30 minutes.
Wow.
I do 2 or 3 recipes at a time, and then I wrap them up, stick them in the freezer. So you're rushing home between jobs.
Right.
Just grab a couple of these out of the freezer, microwave them. We always keep quinoa and millet cooked in the fridge all the time.
Yeah.
Grab some of that. You now have a meal. You don't have to think to yourself, I have got to forage for food now.
Now that's like the main complaint I get from friends when I tell them I'm vegetarian. Like, well, what do you eat? Because they used to be able to go to fast food restaurants or just go out, and I think it's the simplicity, the convenience, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Right.
That a lot of people feel like they're losing when they subscribe to a vegetarian or vegan diet. But you're saying it doesn't have to be the case. You can meal prep, have a lot of great food on standby, and just be able to make food really quickly.
Absolutely. If you have the the main course.
Yeah.
Like, so when I make waffles, I make 20 or 30 at a time. When I make crepes, I stack them in between
And what do you make
wax
those
paper.
waffles and crepes out of?
That's a different segment.
Oh man, she's gonna do that to us, guys. She's really gonna do that to us.
So
We'll have to talk about that.
We'll
That's gonna be
definitely have
fun.
to come back for that.
Yeah.
So that's
Now,
what I do, so that
What
when
is this sauce here?
when he comes home,
Yeah.
just grab these entrees and then you add your fruits or vegetables to it. So this sauce is, here's a little bit more of it here.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely fresh sauce. So I quarter up tomatoes,
Okay.
fresh tomatoes,
Yeah.
onion, garlic, with a little bit of water, salt, and about 2 or 3 drops of this sweetener. Everything goes in the blender and I just pulse it. Literally takes 2 minutes to make a big pitcher full of this.
Wow.
And then I simmer that for about 20 or 30 minutes till some of the water from the tomatoes
Right.
cooks down.
Right.
That's all it is.
Wow.
It doesn't even have herbs. You can add herbs to it, but I'm telling you, we have become quite simple in our cooking. And this does not affect Matthew in any way, so he's good with it.
Yeah.
And it tastes good.
Now you talk about simplicity in diet. That's a biblical principle.
It really is.
You know, if you think about it, I mean,
yes.
you look at Daniel in Daniel chapter 1, you know, when he's taken into captivity into Babylon.
That's right.
One of the first convictions he has from God, and that we see in that whole book, is a change of diet. He reverts back to this natural, we call it the Eden diet, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because that's the original diet that God gave us. That's why you can see all around you today, whole food plant-based diet is a big deal now.
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
science is showing what God gave us to begin with.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's a very simple diet. There aren't processed foods
Right.
in that.
Right. And you
And-
say that Daniel had Pop-Tarts.
Exactly. Yeah, when you think about it,
Not that I'm bashing Pop-Tarts. It's getting flamed in the
you can bash Pop-Tarts. God could have said, just don't eat what they're eating for whatever reasons, but you can still eat whatever you want.
Right.
But God didn't say that because there's such a huge connection between what goes in your mouth
Right.
and what
Absolutely.
the thinking,
And this
the
whole
brain.
food brain fog thing, it's a real thing. The way you
it's
eat
so real.
literally affects the way you think, the way you comprehend, and even your emotional health, as I explained my anxiety
Absolutely.
and all
Yes.
those things. So your emotional and mental health are indeed impacted by your diet. And a lot of times we don't really attribute and connect those things. We go and get pharmaceutical,
Exactly.
supplements and things. But it's all comes down to diet. Even
does.
Jesus had a simple diet. Even John the
right.
Baptist, we learn about
That's
his
right.
diet in John chapter 3. So simple diet, there's something here for emotional and mental health. So what are some other foods that you cook there? You mentioned that white rice and brown rice didn't sit well for Matt.
They did not sit well. So, nor did white potatoes.
Oh, no.
So what do we have
We have
here
mashed
then?
potatoes.
It
Are
looks
you-
like
are you-
mashed potatoes. Now, this is a wonderful meal together. You've got your oat burgers with your fresh tomato sauce. This is actually mashed cauliflower instead
I
of
see what you
mashed
did there.
potatoes.
I see
Yeah.
what you did there.
So I pressure cooked it until it's nice and tender, drain it, and then I put in, it's called Kite Hill. That's the name brand.
Okay.
Kite
I've seen that
Hill.
brand. Yeah.
And it's a very natural cream cheese.
Okay.
Instead of the kinds that have 14, 15 ingredients with
Right.
preservatives,
Right.
this is basically almonds.
Wow.
So I add
Wait, so
that
is it
with
real
the
cheese then?
chives.
Or is it-
No, it's not.
Wow.
It's the
So it's
main ingredient is almonds.
So it's an almond milk cheese.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it has
Thank you, almond cows.
yes, we appreciate that.
Okay.
So we just add some chives to it and a little salt, and that is it. And this makes a nice dinner, and it looks like it's
mashed
something that
potatoes
it's not.
yeah, exactly. That's really cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got oat burgers that we can freeze, pull out, microwave, bam, you're ready to go.
You can use these with, instead of regular tortillas or buns that Matthew can't have anymore. So now we use these almond flour.
So my burrito days aren't over either.
No, they're not. These are the ingredients. Just almond flour, tapioca flour, water, sea salt, and xanthan gum.
Wow.
That's all that's in here.
And this brand is Siete, Siete. For those of you who are listening on our podcast, we're sorry. Just
Yeah,
Google
I
it.
have no idea how to
We don't know how
pronounce
to
it.
pronounce
But that's what it looks like. So we use those, and then Matthew can have a couple of burgers, tomato, avocado, lettuce on it, and
cool.
now he's got a burger.
Nice.
And then the last thing that I wanted to show you, since we said, you
No
can't
rice.
have rice,
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
have rice. So this is Spanish millet
Wow.
instead of Spanish rice.
So this is riceless Spanish rice.
Exactly. And what you want to do is, since we're keeping our seasonings very minimal now, add lots of fresh vegetables, the ones that you can eat.
Right.
Matthew can eat bell peppers, onions, and garlic and cilantro all day long.
You are like
So
a mastermind
Totally.
creating these things around his diet. That is
I'll
phenomenal.
tell you. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
We now know, instead of having this many things you can eat, it's this many. So now what can we do with these?
Right,
For
right.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow. So instead of doing rice, you're doing quinoa, you're doing millet. Instead of
Right.
doing veggie meats and those sort of things, you're doing oats. And
Yeah.
instead of doing potatoes and high starches, you're doing cauliflower.
Exactly.
You're creative. I'll give you that. It's phenomenal. And I'm sure
We've
stuff-
had to be. Seriously,
yeah.
we've had to be.
Now, not everyone's going to have a food sensitivity as extreme as Matthew's.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
still figuring mine out, but it doesn't seem like I'm as sensitive as he is.
Yeah.
And it just must be the way we're processing our foods here in America, the pesticides, because my food allergies were developed only this last 2 years or so. And so it is
Probably
real.
cumulative
Or
too,
it's cumulative.
you know?
Yeah. But it sounds like some practical ways to troubleshoot your mental and emotional symptoms that you're having that may be attributed to your food are reset your seasonings,
Right.
salt, onion powder, go with your single spices that are just the spice by itself with no
Exactly.
dextrose.
Exactly.
And then it sounds like you're saying introduce foods slowly. Start with brown rice and add something to it, and then add something to it.
And start it one at a time. So if you do have a reaction, you'll know what it is.
And that reaction can only be recorded through a food diary.
Exactly.
Keep track of what you're eating
Exactly.
and how you felt.
Right.
Man, if you guys have any other questions outside of this, feel free to comment them in the section that's for comments below. And we'd love to reply back and share with everything you can. Now, Phyllis, I mentioned earlier, are a food evangelist. This is something that you're passionate about, that you do frequently. Can we get some of those recipes from you?
Absolutely.
Can we share those?
Be
You guys
happy
heard it
to
here.
share them. Happy
Check
to
those
share.
out below
Yeah.
as well. Thank you so much for sharing what's happening with Matthew and your journey as you're figuring out his food allergies. Next time, we're going to have some waffles and crepes because...
We'll do it.
All right. I'm really excited. No, but seriously, Phyllis, thank you so much for having us and for talking about this. This is a huge
awesome.
epidemic. It's happening everywhere. It's very common.
I feel like it is. And I appreciate the opportunity to do this because it's been quite a journey for us. And as I keep talking to people and they say they're having the issues, we know it's not just us.
That's right. So friends, comment, let us know what you think. If you have questions, ask them below. Give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend. We'll see you next time. Blessings. Good news.
If you thought it was a blessing, definitely comment below.
And participate. Let us know what subjects you want us to cover in the future. And be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe.